Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Tony Stark Iron Man issue 15. And this was a pretty good issue, giving us kind of the run up to what's been going on and Tony dealing with the fallout of the whole escape fiasco, while also introducing us to the next kind of arc that's going to be going on. So, Tony Stark has been put in front of the Senate committee to answer for what has happened in the escape, dealing with this Senator Brickman person who's pretty much bringing up what was all going on. Him explaining about his corrupted AI and what was kind of going on with that. And Tony is taking this hearing seriously because his tech was involved and he wanted to make sure that it didn't happen again. But of course, Brickman seems to have more ulterior motives involved, and to be playing, at least from what I've been seeing, more on like Bane's side, as he starts bringing up the questions of what's going on with AI, like directed or autonomous, and if an autonomous AI such as Motherboard would have been able to be held legally responsible for what's been going on. Tony bringing up that in the legal cases haven't been brought up to clearly define the rights of AI, so we're getting that kind of brought up into the mix. He brings that up because he gets into Tony's whole status of, is he an AI or not? And he brings out the bombshell that he says that he is an AI, everybody freaking out, and this, of course, opens him up for the kill for Brickman to bring in, okay, if that's the case, what about this? And he had evidently gotten a hold of the Tony AI that Riri was using during her tenure and everything, and saying, well, could this Tony Stark be in control of Stark Unlimited and all that? And we're like, oh shit, that would be a wrinkle and all that. Of course, the AI Tony is like, hey, most of my math that I would need to kind of prove everything to use above your pay grade, and we kind of need to do a recess. Tony was freaked out, where did you get that and all that? It's like, well, that's a pretty big thing. That leads me more to believe that it was possibly Arno involved with somehow getting a hold of that and getting it out in front of Brickman to be used against Tony. Or it could be some other person and party involved. We'll have to see how that kind of pans out. But Rhodey's kind of talking with AI Tony and real Tony. He brings up how he wants to fly to Cuba for mojitos, and AI Tony's like, whoa, we're drinking again. Tony's like, no, Rhodey's like, no, you're not, we're not, all that kind of stuff. So Tony's not in a good spot. We had seen that there were other people also watching, as Arno Stark had brought back his parent AIs, both of them, and said, okay, I'm going to have to pause this and you guys, because I have to go deal with something. We then switch over and we see that Yokosta's come to have her upgrades and all that, and Machine Man is not having any of it. He is pissed off with what's been going on with that, and is showing pretty much the same kind of bigotry that humans would show to artificial, except artificial to human. Pretty much saying Bane to go screw herself when she's like, hey, you can have the upgrades too. And he's like, screw you, get bent. And she's like, hey, things are changing and we're on the winning side here. I'm like, because we'd seen her laughing at Tony saying that. I'm like, Bane, you're being used. This is just it's really funny when you see these kind of villains in effect that you know that Arno is the bigger threat here and he is just using Bane to the fullest advantage. She doesn't see on the kind of level that Tony and Arno do. And it's just funny to me how she's like, yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm a pig, dipped in my own shit, yeah, when she really is just had a lot of good luck being through her way to be able to spin everything, mainly because Arno was involved. We then get back to Tony and everything going on at Stark Unlimited. We see that Janet is now on her assigned duty to look after Tony at the moment, and that there's a lot of robots protesting about what has been going on with Stark Unlimited. And she goes in, and we see that both Tonys are kind of having a heart-to-heart, and that AI Tony doesn't know how Brickman got him, and that Tony needs an onboard AI. And he's like, yeah. And you're looking at it, and it's like, this is interesting. Big Tony, little Tony. Now, with what happens at the end, they could potentially do more if they're able to salvage him, but we'll see how that works. But they see that something's going on, and, well, Janet suggests going to go get a bite to eat, so they go off, and before this, we had seen that Vision and Wonder Man had been called to the Avengers Mansion because Tony, of course, had supposedly sent them a message to come and meet with them. And we see that Jarvis opens it up, and they're like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then he does something because he's got something plastered to his head. And you're like, that's kind of weird. That doesn't really look like the device the controller's been using. And dealt with Vision and Wonder Man. And as Tony and Janet are going off to eat, we see this crazed thing come up, and we see that it is a huge amalgamation of Wonder Man and Vision, and has all the strength and all that. And of course, all the robot protesters are like, hey, it's Vision! Was like, oh god! And he's evidently going after Janet, and Tony's trying to stop him, and is not really having a good time trying to do that, because of the proportional strength of, like, having Vision strength and Wonder Man strength is a big deal. That's a big kind of threat. And of course we see Big Tony and Little Tony kind of acclimating to their own kind of thing. But we see that Janet was trying to help out, but she got flicked, and evidently the hybrid creature said, alright, other unit, go for retrieval. And we see that Janet is down, and Jarvis comes in, zaps her, and is like, all according to plan, and takes her away. We get back into the fight with Tony and this amalgamation, and he's like, this isn't going very well. I'm going to have to do a Cascade EMP. But the thing is, and then Little Tony's like, it'll fry me, right? Right. And he's like, do it. We got to do it to make sure Janet's safe. And he does it, but this really screws it up for him in that it does take out the amalgamation creature, but it also takes out all the robot protesters as well. So that's a big fiasco that Tony's going to have to deal with. And he just sees this as further giving him proof that he is an AI, because he just treats it as data, and that Yocasta was right. He's like, well, at least I saved Janet, but he can't find her anywhere, and he's like screaming for her. And we get to the end of the issue, and we see that Jarvis has her in this container, and then we see the person behind all this is Ultron Pym, and saying that he wants to get down to business, talking with Janet. He was surprised with her going out with Tony, but now it's time to get down to what his plans are. So it's like, okay, definitely going to be interesting to see how Ultron Pym deals with all this, how Arno Stark and Bane are going to be involved, and what Tony's going to have to be able to do to rescue Janet and deal with what's been going on since Jarvis has been under control, what's going to be going on with Vision and Wonder Man, and it's just, what's Ultron Pym's endgame goal? It's like, oh, okay, this is a pretty exciting arc. I can't wait to see where they kind of go with this. And this was a pretty decent issue with, like, the art style and everything. It really worked with the art, and to make Jarvis seem really creepy in the capture method of Janet, because he really looked elongated and his head was kind of bigger. It just really fit with the creepiness of the situation. But I'm like, okay, because we've shifted art style a little bit from the previous issue, and I'm like, oh, this works pretty well, and it really sells the creepiness factor of the Ultron Pym hybrid at the end. It's like, ooh, that's freaky. So I really enjoyed this issue, and I can't wait to see where this arc goes next. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.